Their home for almost a decade. Night after night, the place was packed as San Antonio's dynasty was built.
Elliott, a right corner three.
Crazy as I wanna be, cause I make it orderly. You could say I'm sort of the boss, so get lost. Live hard, cause I get a piece of the action. Feeling satisfaction from the street crowd reaction.
Back in the day, the Spurs got the dub. But Curry is back and hungry to put on a show of his own.
Provide right flavor so you can
Steph.
try to catch me.
Yeah, these days the scales tipped in favor of Golden State. But tonight in San Antonio, this historic crowd is looking for that old school feeling.
Yeah, so much to be excited about. What you're looking at is the historic Alamodome in San Antonio, Texas. In there tonight, the Spurs celebrate their 50th anniversary season. Over 64,000 people will be in attendance tonight to watch the home team, the Spurs, host Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors. And we will get you ready for that matchup and some other things that are happening around the association. Welcome into Hoop Streams, Christine Williamson alongside Izzy Gutierrez. This is the first time we've been in studio together.
I know. It's like, I feel like it's already magic. I mean, look at this look. You look amazing together.
I am in sweats. Okay, guys, and there's a long story to that, which we won't get into.
And Crocs, but you can't really see them because they're camo, so it's okay.
I'm trying to hide them. At least my face looks good, right? Always. Tonight, the Spurs are paying tribute to the Alamodome, and a lot of things happen in the Alamodome. There's events. There's more than just basketball games. When you think about the Alamodome, historically, what comes to mind for you?
Well, I only covered a couple of games there in like 2000 and 2001, but it was huge. That's the first thing. Like, you have to walk from the back. You see this entire football arena, and then you finally see the constructed basketball arena inside. And it just makes me think that, like, when you put 60,000+ people in there, it's going to be some, like, weird dimensions, you know, things looking kind of funny, like maybe the shooters won't do as well, like Steph Curry, who's there. There is this little debate going on in in the Twitter land about whether all those 60,000 people are there to see Steph Curry or the Spurs. And I do think that those 60,000 are real Spurs fans. It just so happens that Steph is going to be there, right?
I was going to say, that's a good night to show up for the defending champs. I mean, it makes plenty of sense, especially if you're a Spurs fan. Let's talk about last night, because we got a couple of marquee matchups, and we start with the Celtics and the Nets. So there was no KD for the Nets and no Jaylen Brown for the Celtics. Kyrie Irving took it upon himself to make up for the Nets' missing offense, scoring 24 for his squad. But then Jason Tatum had 20 points, 11 rebounds, and Boston pulled away to beat Brooklyn 109-98. Was this a preview, Izzy, of the Eastern Conference Finals?
I sure hope not, because this was not pretty. And I would not be watching an Eastern Conference Finals if there's no KD and there's no Jaylen Brown. However, I thought, you know, it was basically, if you look at the stats, it was a very similar game for both teams. I thought Kyrie sort of getting adjusted to life without KD is going to be a little bit more difficult, especially when you get 0 points out of Ben Simmons. Now, I do think he had the 13 assists. He was a good playmaker. He had some rebounds. But he's got to look to score. And if they're ever going to sort of feel complete when KD comes back, he's got to take advantage of this time away and look to score the basket. I mean, he still looks comfortable around the rim and, you know, maybe 10 feet out with that little hook shot. He's got to do more for sure.
So still some growing pains in Brooklyn. Let's go over to the West, because the Lakers and the Mavericks gave us a really good one. We got extra basketball. Luka Doncic hit 3 tying 3 3-pointers in the final seconds of regulation and in the first overtime. He had 35 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists, and his Mavs took down LeBron 119 to 115 on Thursday night. What did this game tell you about the Mavericks?
Well, you know that song by Young Blue I was talking about before where he says, don't you treat me like no six man. That's what I think when I think of these two teams, right? Because you got Christian Wood who's like going to be a starter now, and he's giving you great production. But what about that Mavericks bench? Like, you already worry about Luka Doncic, being sort of the center of the universe there and handling the ball so much. But when he's off the floor and the bench is in there, what are they doing? It looks a lot worse with Christian Wood not there. And say the same thing about Russell Westbrook. Like, I do think that, obviously him coming off the bench, he's been really good. He might climb to sort of leading Sixth Man of the Year candidacy. Yeah. But I think for both of those teams, those benches, when they are healthy, are going to be super important. The Lakers seem to be better suited right now because they have Russell Westbrook on their bench. The Mavs, putting all their sort of talent with their starting lineup, might have some more questions with the bench.
Russell Westbrook with a season-high 28 points. LeBron added 24, 16 rebounds, and 9 assists. Okay, tonight is the beginning of Dr. King weekend here on ESPN, where we look to honor the legacy and achievements of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. across our family of networks. Take a listen.
Lift every voice and sing.
The way that he used his voice and his platform, no matter if it was in the eyes of ridicule or imprisonment or whatever the case was, he didn't back down from that. And so for us, it's inspiration to use our voice and our platform to speak for those that can't speak for themselves, and to continue the fight that he left in our hands.
All right, we are now very happy to be welcomed by the one, the only Joe G, who loves to play games on this show. So, Joe, I'm assuming you're here to play a game.
A game that's up to no good, Christine. We are going to be playing New Me 2023. Now that the new year's here, some NBA players have completely flipped the scripts. We're going to go through 5 players, 5 blind resumes.
Okay.
You're going to give your answers on the clipboards that I have for you guys.
Love this.
Right there.
Okay.
Are you ready to rock?
No.
Player number 1. New Me 2023. Last year, he averaged 2.4 points per game.
This one.
He had no starts. Mile high, take that for what it is. And in this year, he's averaging a career high 12 points, 7 rebounds. And my clue for you guys tonight is that he's tall. Who is this?
This was my pick for most improved player as of a couple of weeks ago. Bol, is in. It's got to be.
The answer is Bol. Is it correct? It is correct. Okay, Christine, we're off to a hot start.
Good job, guys.
We should note, by the way, that the silhouettes are not the silhouettes
please
of the
note
player,
that,
right?
because don't look at the silhouettes. It's not going to give anything away. It's going to ruin you.
That's usually how I cheat, is the silhouette. So.
Izzy, by the way, Bol, at the beginning of the season, his odds to win most improved player, which is now the George Mikan Award, plus 8,000.
Ooh.
Wow.
Better now.
Tossing stats out here, Christine. Up next, player number 2.
Okay.
Last year, he averaged just 14 points a game. He had one 30-point game, and he was one and done. Take that for what it is. Again, this year, he's averaging a career-high 24.5 points. He has 10 30-point games, and my clue, Dory.
Dory, is this some sort of cartoon?
I mean, I know what that is, but like, one and done.
Let's hear your guesses. Or let's see your guesses. We're on the clock.
Dory's really throwing me off.
Come on, Christine, what do you got?
Entirely. Oh, man.
I mean, this is the only thing that I'm going to say, even though I don't know. This is the wrong answer. It's not even a person.
I'm waiting to see this. Let's see what you got.
KPJ in Houston.
Nemo. And yours is what,
Izzy?
KPJ.
What's Dory?
Kevin Porter Jr.
The answer to player number 2 is Lauri Markkanen.
Oh, I freaking knew that.
Dory.
No, you didn't.
No, I really did. I really did.
Do you get the clue though? Dory, Lauri. Okay, all right.
Like, thinking cartoons.
Player number 3.
I was thinking like Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
Player number 3.
Okay.
Last year, handsome, ripped AF, and a veteran. This year, he's still handsome, or she, Still ripped AF, and the clue is definitely not Joe. Hey, Christine's face.
I'm going to eliminate
It's not me,
myself
Christine.
because I don't play
I know
the
your
NBA.
first thought it was me.
Ripped. I mean, just going to go to the person that I think of when I think of ripped in the NBA today, even though it's not the right answer.
Your answers. Let's see them. Turn them.
He's not a veteran.
Desmond Bane?
Desmond Bane. Christine, who was yours?
He's not a veteran.
It's just, what is that?
A line.
The answer to this player is Mr. Izzy Gutierrez.
I would have thought to write Izzy, but then when he didn't guess himself, I was like, maybe not.
Okay, so it's not NBA players, just really
Wait,
awesome people. I get it now.
That picture's amazing.
A bit of a curveball. Izzy, that is, when you search your name on Google, that is the first image that comes up.
That is actually amazing.
I've been trying to talk to Google to see if they can make
That
it
is
actually
amazing.
bigger when it shows up. but no.
Next player. Last year, averaged a
Also,
career
I
high
love
at the
that you're a
time,
player.
24.5 points, 45% from the
Last
field,
year?
under 25. This year, career year, 31 points, 50% from the field.
Ooh.
And my clue for you is Thor.
Thor is an
Thor.
interesting clue.
I don't understand the Thor.
I'm going-
Clues are the
I'm
things
like the
that
Riddler
throw me
over
off.
here.
I'm going with the scoring average. as
Let's-
Yeah,
my-
I don't know what Thor is.
We need answers.
All right. I'm going
SGA. The answer is
Oh, yeah.
Shea Gilgeous
What is
Alexander.
Thor about?
Yeah.
Thor, like thunder, love and thunder. We're company people over
That is
here.
Such a
You
good
should have
clue.
said. You should. No, it's not. You should
Yes,
have
it is,
said-
Christine.
You should have said like model.
Okay.
No, they already-
literal model.
They already showed me.
That's true. Last one, guys. You ready for this?
No.
Last year, consummate professional.
Oh, boy.
Clemson and Miami lover,
Okay.
and still is, a social media savant. This year, I'll tell you what, you can't get a hold of her. She's surpassed superstardom. Hosts First Take on a regular basis, even this morning. And last but not least, she will not text Joe back. Baldy.
I text you back.
Christine, I have proof. The last 4 texts you have not answered me. The answer is Miss Christine Williamson, our celebrity everything.
I
is what
literally
she is.
text Joe back. Don't ever
You
listen
don't.
to anything
You
he
don't.
says. Thanks, Joe.
Would we get 2 of those?
He's the best. Okay, so Tony Parker, obviously in San Antonio. The Spurs are trying to break an attendance record tonight at the Alamodome. So the all-time attendance record is 73,086 people. They might not get that, but the all-time record for people attending an NBA game is 62,046. So the Spurs announced that they have sold 64,387 tickets to the game tonight, which would set a new NBA attendance record. So since we're on the subject, we're going to take a look at some other NBA records for something that we're calling breakable or unbreakable. All right, we start with LeBron James because we know that he could, obviously everything starts with LeBron. We know that he could break the all-time scoring record, but he also recently passed Magic Johnson for 6th on the all-time assist list. He's currently 73 away from tying Mark Jackson for 4th place on that list. Izzy, do you think the all-time assist record is breakable or unbreakable?
As much as I've seen people or score operators or whatever, give away assists like it's nothing. You see a pass and some dude takes 3 steps in a layup and all of a sudden that's still an assist.
Yeah.
I still think this is impossible to break, all right? Let me give you a few numbers. LeBron, just LeBron, okay? If he were to, let's just say, play 3 more seasons,
Okay.
60 games apiece, that's 200, and then another third. Just throw in another 210 more games. He'll have to average 17 assists per game to pass him.
wow.
That's not happening, right? So a new player, right? Somebody that joins the league, averages 75 games a year, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, for 18 seasons, which is a ridiculous
That's a
career.
lot of- yeah.
Have to average 11.7 assists every single year. Who's coming out the box?
Yeah.
Out of college or high school, averaging
Right.
11.7. It's just impossible. John Stockton was just so consistent.
Yeah.
I think that one's unbreakable.
That makes sense. Okay, let's go to a splash brother. This one, Klay Thompson. He holds the all-time record for most points scored in a quarter. That happened when he scored 37 points in the 3rd quarter against the Kings on January 23rd, 2015. The next closest person is Kevin Love, who scored 34 points in a quarter on November of 2016. Izzy, Klay Thompson's record, breakable or unbreakable?
I'm going to call it unbreakable. I mean, 36 points is a three-pointer a minute, okay, for the entire. And then you just add another point there. Who, outside of Klay Thompson, has that kind of green light and has that kind of space playing on that type of team? I cannot picture. I mean, you can give me anybody that can get hot. Devin Booker, perhaps, but he's going to get hot with a ton of mid-range pull-ups and maybe a few and ones, but it's not going to be that many points to get to 37 in a quarter. The best possibility is somebody who gets fouled a lot, but in one quarter, I don't know. I feel like the referees don't give away that many whistles.
That makes sense. I like that you have the math, like how many points you would have to. This is amazing. Thank you. You're teaching me something. Okay, now let's go to the Spider, Donovan Mitchell. He scored 71 points against the Bulls on January 2nd. That is the most points ever by a Cavalier. But the all-time record for points scored in an NBA game is 100. We know that Wilt Chamberlain picture. He racked that up against the Knicks in 1962. The next closest person to Wilt's is Kobe Bryant with 81 points against the Raptors in 2006. Izzy, is Wilt Chamberlain's record breakable or unbreakable?
I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to ask you a question first. Is this the most iconic record in the NBA? The 100-point game, because of the paper,
that picture,
because like the actual numbers of things we don't really remember, like as opposed to home runs. Do you think that the 100 is?
I would say yes.
I do too.
Okay,
I agree. And I think that because of that, somebody's going to chase that thing.
Oh, that's
Somebody's
true.
going to have like 70 after 3 quarters and said, no, coach, keep me in.
Yeah.
Somebody, it might even be LeBron on a walker in his last thing in the league, just like, hey, let me get my 100 and 101 and hold up that piece of paper. Somebody's going to chase it. And as skilled as players are today, I think it's not 37 points in a quarter. It's 25 points in 4 quarters, right?
Right.
I think that's doable.
That's actually really true. 25 points in a quarter. That's not
just
that
gotta play
hard.
probably 45 minutes.
Right, of course, but you just have to play basketball.
A lot of foul calls.
All right, let's get in some more supporting records in here. Scott Skiles holds the all-time record for most assists in a game, 30 against the Nuggets on December 30th, 1990. Is that record breakable or unbreakable?
It's breakable because, no offense to Mr. Skiles, but I cannot just assume that anything that he did in the NBA is unbreakable. I mean, just look at him. He's a feisty little guy, but not exactly a guy that you say, wow, nobody's going to surpass that. I look at, like, you know, a guy like Nikola Jokic, right? All the offense runs through him. His team can run. He can get easy assists just because, you know, like I said, the half court runs through him. I think if he really wanted to, can break that record. He could probably do it this year.
Poor Scott just got.
I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry.
Got caught in the crosshairs of that one, but that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so since we're talking about records, we are going to try to break a record ourselves. There is a record. A world record for the most times passing a ball around your leg. It's 70 rotations in 30 seconds. So we're going to try to beat that. Joe G, he's back. Referee Joe G.
Entirely unnecessary whistle.
He's going to keep count and see how many we can get. Am I going to, or is it just Izzy? Because that'd be beautiful. No, you go first.
All right, I'll go first then. By the way,
30 seconds,
this
30
outdoor
seconds.
ball, these white pants, gonna get dirty. All right, ready?
Are we ready? On my mark.
Absolutely.
Ready, set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
There's
16,
no way
18,
I'm going to be able to
19,
do this.
20, 21,
I'm
22,
so
23,
confused.
24, 25.
How are you getting?
27,
Wait,
28,
hold on.
29,
This
30,
guy got
31,
70
32,
in
33,
30
34,
seconds?
35, 36, 37, 38,
What kind of-
5 seconds.
Good job, Izzy. I feel like I can.
43, 40, 45, 46, 47, 48.
Hey!
Can
That
we get
was
a
really
Didn't even get
How
the
many was it?
50.
46.
That's pretty solid.
And my pants are dirty.
Just realizing
Sweating a
the
little bit.
math. Like, I'm not good at math.
70.
We need you to
How do
show
I
the
do
Crocs
this?
off, Christine.
Wait, I feel like I have to stand up.
Yeah, it should.
Right.
Croc on the table.
No, that's
you're
going to
wearing
knock the
sweats.
table over. Don't you know how it
All
works?
right, Christine, are you ready?
I'm going this way. Sorry, you guys.
On my mark. Ready, set.
And I have a coat on. Oh my
Watch
God.
your hand.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Am I going 1 per second?
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. She's struggling. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 10 seconds. 30, 31, 32, 33,
No Guinness.
34, 35, 36, 37, 38.
But at least I'm the best in the house.
My ring almost fell off. I'm tired. I'm out of shape.
You didn't put them in sport mode. That's the problem.
Oh, that is why. It's because my cross.
Come
I
on.
got your time wrong, dude. I can't even count.
You guys.
I thought I got 49. But
Valiant effort, Christine.
nowhere near 7.
So did I win? I'm just
You won
kidding.
something.
Okay. You're watching Hoop Streams as we get you ready for, I can't breathe, the Warriors taking on the Spurs tonight. That game in about a little over 10 minutes, and we will get you ready for that one as I catch my breath. All right. So we're going to start something else called Izzy the MVP, and it's a little play off of our guy, Izzy. And we're starting with Nikola Jokic, who might be on his way to a third MVP, the Joker, averaging 21, 18, and 9, and the Nuggets are currently sitting atop of the Western Conference. We're going to see how the Joker stacks up against some of the other top players in the league in something, as I mentioned, that we call Izzy
I love
MVP.
that. It's the biggest my name has ever been in lights ever.
I love that for you. Okay, let's start with Jason Tatum, who's currently tied for 4th in the NBA in scoring, averaging 30.8 points per game. He has his Celtics sitting in 1st place in the East. Izzy MVP.
You know, if you would have asked me this about a month ago, it would have been a hard yes because it's very much, best player on most dominant team. They seem to have slipped a little bit. He is going to be the victim, and I know this is not a great thing. He's going to be the victim of people saying, hey, that Boston team is so well-rounded. He's got a great number 2 in Jaylen Brown, and there are other people who are a little bit more heliocentric, if you will, on their teams. And I think Jason is probably going to lose out in that respect. So he was the first quarter MVP, but no, he is not the MVP.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's go to another team in the East. 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo is averaging 31.7 points per game to go along with his 11.8 rebounds per game. His Milwaukee Bucks are currently 3rd in the East. Is he MVP?
See, forget the name already. So Giannis, I feel like is going to probably make another run, right? But I looked at a box score the other day. I didn't watch the game. But it makes me respect LeBron James so much in that double-figure scoring streak. He only had 8 points in a game recently, Giannis. He had like a bunch of rebounds and a bunch of assists, but Giannis only had 8 points.
Yeah.
I think Giannis is not the type who's going to chase that anymore.
Right.
I think he's going to let himself have, a few games, probably sit out some games at the back end as long as they're locked into a good seed and they're comfortable. So I would say even though he might have similar numbers to other years, it's not going to feel like he's the MVP this year at the end. So no, Giannis is not the MVP.
All right, been there, done that. He doesn't need that right now. All right, let's go to Luka. The Don has 34.2 points per game along with 8.9 rebounds per game and 8.7 assists. This might be the year he takes home the scoring crown, but is the MVP.
It's funny because I came into this with one clear answer as to who my MVP was, and then the last couple of games, Luka has really impressed me, and it wasn't just big numbers, but it's his ability to keep those numbers up, and I think his scoring numbers are going to go higher. I think he's probably going to end up averaging around 35, which is like that Kobe neighborhood, which is crazy, MJ neighborhood, James Harden, and I think he's going to keep up those 8 and 9 assist and rebound games. So honestly, if that move of Christian Wood in the starting lineup and they make one little tweak, I think that team might have enough wins where it's just like, it's hard to avoid saying Luka's the MVP. And with a little bit of voter fatigue on Jokic, I think Luka might be the MVP. This is me holding up a fake sign that says yes, by the way. Yes, he is the MVP.
Yes. Okay, so you mentioned Jokic. Do you think that Jokic, aside from what you just said about Luka, is still the MVP?
I do. I think Luka's just sort of climbed right over him, but I feel like it's going to be essentially a two-man race. I think, they are the center of their teams. I think Luka in the end is just going to have more points. And, even if Jokic averages a triple-double, there's a little bit of, we lost a little bit of the steam on that because of Russell Westbrook doing it a couple of times. And it drives me insane when people say give it to someone else just for the sake of giving it to someone else. It should be the best player this year. But again, it is sort of a debate whether he is the best player this year or Luka is so far. And I think, some people might go by wins. Some people might go by just added responsibility. I don't think usage rate should hurt you if you're Luka. So if you are Luka and you're in the top 4 and you put up those numbers, something around 34, 35, 9 and 9, I think it would be a historic mistake not to give him the MVP. Only because you have an excuse against Jokic. Even if it's a terrible excuse, you have an excuse against Jokic. He's got a couple already.
All right, well, there's half of a season to see what those guys do for the rest of it. It is now time for the main attraction. All right, so we got the Spurs taking on the Warriors. As I mentioned, we saw Steph Curry back in the lineup against the Suns on Tuesday night. He picked up right where he left off. He had 24 points. Izzy, what did you see out of Stephen that could work well for the Warriors tonight?
You know what? I think Steph, him being back in that lineup, it just sort of settles everybody. It just sort of allows you to say, hey, if he's doing his thing, everybody else just needs to sort of remember what we've learned so far, right? And fall back into our roles. And this was sort of last year when you thought about them going into the playoffs. A lot of people thought, hey, they're really good, but can they be the championship team? And Steph just reminded you, hey, we won sometimes in the past, and I didn't have to be that guy, but I can be that guy. So as long as he's there, we've seen enough from the other guys, Poole, Clay, Draymond. I still think they can get back on track.
What did you think of the sleeve that he wore?
I didn't think it looked too bad. I think it looked uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it looked bad.
Okay, let's talk about the Warriors a little bit more because, I mean, we have talked ad nauseum about how they've started the season. They're currently in the 8th spot out west. How can they make up ground in the second half of the season?
Just by looking at that Western Conference. Like, if you look and say, like, first of all, they don't really fear the Nuggets, right? They're not going to fear the team that's on the top. They just, wiped them out last year. The team that they probably should sort of think about is the Memphis Grizzlies, but they took them out last year as well. So they make up ground just by continuing to do their thing. But if you just look at the Western Conference, there's not going to be a team that runs away with it. I do think, the Nuggets might go on a streak or what have you, and maybe solidify the number 1 seed eventually. But I just don't think that there's anybody the Warriors are afraid of. They don't need home court advantage in a series. They don't even need to be a top 6 seed. To be honest, they can win a play-in game and go to the playoffs. So how they make up ground, they just are fortunate to be in a Western Conference that's not so scary, at least at the top.
Were you ever concerned about the Warriors? Because I feel like there was so much concern as we went into the season. We saw how they were playing, and they did not look like the defending champion Warriors. Were you concerned at all about how they were playing?
I was concerned, especially when there was a point where Draymond called the team fragile.
Yeah.
Because he, in particular, is the voice on that team. And if you are a fragile team, you're not taking advice from Draymond Green well, right? You're probably hearing it in a negative tone. And obviously, if he had the incident with Jordan Poole in the preseason, it made me wonder if they sort of lost his respect. You know how teams talk about voices need to change, and usually they change the coach? Well, Draymond's voice is one of the most loud voices in the NBA and on that team. And so it felt like maybe that had grown tired. But with Steph's absence, and they sort of picked up the pace, and Jordan Poole sort of recovering who he's been, not having a single-figure scoring game since December started.
Yeah.
It feels like maybe that was just a low point because this team I don't know if it's Steve Kerr, I don't know if it's Draymond Green and the leadership that they have, but they find a way to get back on track regardless.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned Jordan Poole. You don't know this about me. I'm a Jordan Poole stan. I'm obsessed with him. I played him in Uno once, and I won. We played like 5 times. I won. But he almost single-handedly brought the Warriors back against the Suns in the last game. Do you think that he's going to be able to keep thriving in his role off of the bench?
I do, because it really doesn't matter where his role is. If the minutes are there, he's going to get the opportunities. If he's sharing the floor with Steph, it usually works out where he's going to get some good looks. The problem with Poole is, like, even last year in the playoffs, he started off each series well, at least the first 2, and then eventually he got schemed off the floor. Defensively, couldn't really hang in there, and then offensively, unless you don't want him going one-on-one a bunch when you've got that whole system around Steph. So I think what he has found is just his way in how to get his points, how to find his way in that sort of Steph universe, and I think. These games that he's only had, I think, 9 games without Steph Curry. And so even with Steph, he's been able to find his groove and the scoring numbers. So, yeah, I think he's eventually, he put up, 17 points a game in the playoffs. I think you can expect him to put up like 20 plus.
Okay. Let's go to the other side of this matchup with the San Antonio Spurs. So the NBA has obviously taken measures to prevent tanking, but the Spurs don't seem to be in contention for literally anything right now. They're at the bottom of the standings. Do you think they should put all their chips into tanking for Victor Wembanyama?
Well, I don't know if you were to ask the front office people of the Spurs or Greg Popovich, what that even means to them, right? Because going all in to be the bottom seed, if you will, it doesn't really get you that great of a chance at the number one player, the number 1 draft pick. And so I don't think that they're doing that. I think that they are going to evaluate their players. I think they'll probably sell off of a couple of players, and like a Jacob Poeltl, I think, looks like a guy who'd probably get traded. A lot of people are intrigued by him. And if they do that, it's just going to be a natural slide. They'll probably be near the bottom. But again, it's nothing guaranteed. But this is a very top-heavy draft. I'm in love with this draft. The top 5 players, I think, are all going to be all-stars. And so you can, and I think a lot of these NBA teams recognize this too. If you don't get Victor Wembanyama, you can get a Scoot Henderson who's just like a ridiculous, he's almost like a Derrick Rose with a better jump shot. Like he's a potentially a franchise type of player. You got the Thompson twins out there. You got the Arkansas kid. So I do think that regardless of whether they tank to go all the way to the bottom, the way the Spurs operate, self-respect, right?
Yeah.
Don't make it look bad. Don't make it look obvious, and let the chips fall where they may. Kind of reminds me of Miami back in 2002, 2003. Almost says, hey, you should tank. They got the fifth draft pick. What was that? Dwayne Wade, franchise player. So
of course.
Not the worst thing if you just kind of stay in that neighborhood.
Warriors or Spurs tonight?
Oh, Warriors. That's what all the fans are there for, right?
Exactly. 64,000 fans there for the Warriors, of course. If you want to watch this game, go on and log in to your cable provider. If you're watching us on the app, watch it on ESPN. And thank you guys for watching Hoop Streams. We'll see you guys next time.
I think I got it 59 times. Every time that somebody says I'm going to raise the number.
Listen, you guys counted mine
so
wrong.
Close to the world record.
I'm just convinced.
No, it was the
I did
Crocs.
a great job.
Sport mode next time.
It's the court. Or the court, the coat.
Gosh, that...